if I told you there's a kid with 8 limbs, one born as a mermaid, and there's another with 2 heads? Yeah, you heard right. I bet you thought that was some sort of hook to make you stay, but the truth is, there are kids you won't believe exist. Let's start with the tiniest girl in the world. You must have seen babies with low birth weight end up bigger as they grow, but that's never the case with Charlotte Garside, born in the United Kingdom with probably the lowest birth weight of 0.9 kilograms, equivalent to 2 pounds. Charlotte's case is just very different from the usual you see every day, and in fact, a lot of people said Charlotte looks like a porcelain doll. Although Charlotte increased in age, there wasn't any significant development as days went by. When she was almost 2 years old, she weighed less than 7.5 pounds and wore clothes designed for a newborn. And if you thought that wasn't rare, you should meet the kid with 2 colors on his face. Yes, a lot of people have birthmarks, even me, but Anqui's birthmark is quite unusual. His birthmark covers half his face, giving his face 2 different colors. For a boy born in China, he has white skin, but his birthmark being black made his face white and black. As if that wasn't enough, Anqui's birthday started to grow hair, making his face look even scarier. As a kid, this condition made a lot of people stare at Anqui with different expressions. And trust me, these expressions won't make Anqui happy or help his condition. If you missed Anqui's birthmark by chance, you definitely can't pass by the fish boy without noticing him. Just like Anqui, Pan Xinghang was also a Chinese who was born with a rare skin disease called ichthyosis, which means fish in Greek. Pan's skin looks like a fish's so much that it makes people call him the fish boy. This skin condition makes the skin very dry, cracked, and thick. Imagine how uncomfortable that'd be. Now imagine this disease affecting a large part of someone's skin. Whatever you imagined, Pan is feeling worse. It's very difficult for Pan to go about his daily tasks as he experiences a lot of pain when his skin gets too dry. Even lifting his arm can be a struggle. If you think that was not strange enough, you should hear about the Hartley sisters, Claire and Lola. Around 2015, there was an outbreak of the Zika virus in Brazil. The virus is transmitted by the Aedes mosquito, and it was said to be dangerous for pregnant women because it causes microcephaly in babies. However, before the Zika virus became common in Brazil, the Hartley family gave birth to Claire with microcephaly, a condition in which the baby is born with an abnormally small head and brain. Claire was born in 2001 as a child with special needs, and in 2006, the Hartleys gave birth to another child, Lola, with the same condition as Claire. Both lived more than a decade before they later died. Remember the 2008 American fantasy drama titled The Curious Case of Benjamin Button? Well, there are real Benjamin Buttons. Michael Vanderwatt and his sister Amber were both born with progeria, which is a rare genetic disorder that causes a child to age rapidly. Imagine a kid having to live all his life like an old man. The name progeria is derived from the Greek word which means prematurely old. Generally, children with progeria appear normal at birth, but during the first year, symptoms like slow growth and hair loss start to show. As time goes on, they experience what should only be experienced in late adulthood, and therefore be unable to engage in certain activities. Crazy, right? It's even about to get crazier as we look at the kid without a nose. How's that even possible, right? Well, Tessa Evans exists. She was born with a medical condition known as complete congenital arynia, meaning she was born without a nose. Arynia is a rare case with only 47 people recorded to have the condition. The condition has made Tessa such a rare kid too. One who doesn't know what a smell is. It doesn't matter if the smell is good or bad. Tessa won't even know, although she can catch a cold, cough, and sneeze. But even though some kids were born without a nose, some were born a real-life Pinocchio. Ollie Traziz was born with a rare condition called encephalocele, which caused his brain to grow through a crack in his skull into his nose. Ollie's been forced to undergo painful surgeries to close the gap in his skull and help him breathe. Also, during the surgery, the surgeons tried to rebuild Ollie's nose. Fortunately, the surgery was successful, allowing Ollie to breathe well. He would undergo more surgeries in the future, but for now, the doctors are keeping him on a watch. While the doctors are watching Ollie, everyone watches Didier Montalvo's back. You can't pass by Didier without noticing his back has an extra, only that it might leave you wondering what he's got on his back if he was wearing a cloth. Didier has a shell-like growth on his back, which earned him Turtle Boy as his nickname. So many ways, the growth has hindered the boy from doing a lot of things, because it accounted for at least 20% of his total weight. You can imagine how uncomfortable it could be to always carry a heavy backpack, Didier was operated for free. Fortunately, it was successful. Okay, hold on a sec, because this next kid is probably what you've only imagined and never thought would exist for real. A real-life Disney princess. So what makes a Disney princess? Brave, smart, and beautiful, right? But no Disney princess is complete without those big eyes. For years, I've wondered why Disney makes its princesses look that way. Now I know it's because they're rare. Milani Dickerson is one of a kind. She has the type of big eyes that you only see on TV, and that makes people wonder why it's so. Once her mother uploaded her pictures on social media, they went viral. But the crazy part is, those eyes are caused by a genetic condition called Axenfeld-Rieger syndrome. But while some conditions make some kids loved by all, they also make some scary. Meet the guy with big hands. Muhammad Kaleem suffered from localized gigantism, which caused his hands to be extremely oversized. Muhammad's hands hinder him from doing so many things. He can't feed himself as you do. He can't wear his clothes or even button his shirts. As big as those hands are, Muhammad always needs a helping hand. He would rather not use or lift his hands because of the weight. Though Muhammad's hands have 5 fingers like everyone else, those fingers are not evenly proportioned, and those hands look like inflated latex gloves. A quick question, have you seen a real heart visibly beating? Versivia Barangocharva was born with a condition called pentology of Cantrell, which means her heart is outside her chest. So when you see her, you can see how her heart is moving. Versivia's condition can't stop her from going to school or playing with other kids. It's just that she has to be careful, as she has her delicate organ where everyone can see her. Her condition means she has to be hospitalized frequently. Why not just perform surgery to put the heart in its place, right? The sad news is Versivia's blood pressure is always on the high side, making it difficult to operate on her. Anyway, who wants to give their hair 2 different colors? The best you can do is get your hair tinted to your desired color, but did you know that there's a kid born with unusual streaks of white hair that complements her black hair? Meet Melania Worthy. This kid's picture set the internet abuzz because of her hair color. The white locks are seated beautifully on her forehead, but guess what? She's the 4th generation of her family to be born with such. I've been reminded of a lot of things, and this next kid reminds me of Bigfoot, except this is not a movie but a real-life condition. Verdant Joshua was born with his right foot bigger than his left. Not the kind of difference that makes shoes fit one foot better than the other, but a kind of size difference that won't make using shoes even possible. As a kid, Verdant's foot weighed 12 pounds, which were slightly less than his total body weight. Although Verdant can walk, jump, and run with his feet, it still makes life difficult for him because a lot of parents don't want their kids to associate with him. According to doctors who have examined him, the only solution is to amputate the foot. Remember the tiniest kid? Now meet the biggest one. I bet you would never be able to guess Luis Manuel's age correctly just by looking at him. At birth, Luis weighed over 7 pounds, and at 10 months, he outweighed any regular 9-year-old. No matter what Luis's parents tried to make him do and how much they tried to reduce how much he eats, he never sheds weight. His weight keeps increasing even by drinking water. Although he has yet to show signs of digestive disorders or thyroid problems, Luis cannot do much for himself as his weight has a way of hindering him. Talk about hindrance. Here is a boy whose 2 legs hindered him from walking. When Vincent Oketch was born, there was no sign or symptom of his medical condition until he was 1 year old. Suddenly, the rare condition made his 2 legs swell to gigantic proportions. Not only his legs, but also his buttocks ballooned to an inconceivable proportion, hindering Vincent's movement. This condition blocked his lymphatic system and also caused a cyst in his urethra, and so Vincent could not live too long. Although there was a plan to try surgery on his legs, one that would take out the excess fluids in his legs, he died even before he could be helped. If you think that was crazy, you haven't heard about the boy with 300 teeth. John Chris Carl Caranti was born with a condition called hyperdontia. This condition causes too many teeth to grow in the mouth. The extra teeth are what experts call supernumerary teeth. At age 12, John Chris had 300 teeth. How's that even possible? The supernumerary teeth can grow anywhere in the curved areas where teeth attach to your jaws, known as the dental arches, so they just keep growing everywhere they find their roots. John Chris has been operated on at different times, having some of his supernumerary teeth removed. We can only hope all could get removed completely. See, the truth is John Chris's condition might have hindered him from smiling a lot, but this next kid cannot just stop smiling. Sometimes you find things funny, they make you laugh. The next minute, you get hurt. So much so that you cry, but that's not the case with Ollie Petherick. No matter what Ollie's feeling, he can't stop smiling. And that's because he was born with a genetic condition known as Angelman syndrome, which forces him to always smile. As much as smiling is good and important, no kid should have Angelman syndrome because it always comes with learning and speaking disabilities. A child with this syndrome cannot do much for himself in his society. Fu Wengui is looking for a way to reduce the length of his neck. Instead of the usual 7 vertebrae that most people have on their necks, Fu Wengui has 3 extra, which makes his neck longer and his whole body taller. Maybe it would have sometimes been to Fu's advantage, but the physical pain that comes with it makes his life complicated. According to his father, the extra 3 vertebrates exerted much pressure on the nerves in his neck, which made walking a difficult task for him. Fu Wenju has a condition called congenital scoliosis, which arises when the spinal cord fails to form properly. Sometime in 2014, Fu Wenju was prepared to have surgery, but nothing had been heard from him ever since. Now sit tight, things are about to get crazy. Meet the kid that was born with an incomplete head. Jackson Buell was an American kid born with microhydrocephaly, a condition that makes a child with an incomplete head and even brain. The news of his birth went viral in 2014 due to the condition he was born with. Jackson Buell was nicknamed Jackson Strong because he surpassed doctors' expectations to live after he was born with an extreme brain malfunction. The doctors predicted that Jackson would not live beyond a year, but he lived for 5 years before he died in 2019. While some kids didn't survive their conditions, some lived through them. An example is the kid who survived 2 genetic mutations. Drew Foster is a survivor of not 1 but 2 genetic mutations. One of the mutations causes him to have brittle bones, and the other mutation affects his central nervous system. These conditions make Drew look very small, and his bones won't make him move well. The other one causes him to have birthmarks all over his body. Drew Foster is quite popular. He gets invited to programs and shows as he moves around a lot on his track chair. Amazing, right? Want to be more amazed? This is the kid that wrestles without legs. Yeah, you heard it right. Isaiah Bird is a kid with no legs and a wrestler. But isn't wrestling one with legs and hands? That's the main reason why we have Isaiah on this list. Even though he doesn't have legs, his commitment, determination, and resilience made his teacher enjoy teaching him how to wrestle so much that he became really good and better than people who wrestle with their 2 legs. I guess strength lies within. Talking about strength, Tiro Satiru isn't like anyone you've seen on this list. Let's say Isaiah Bird has his hands, but what about Tio Satiru, who's born without limbs? The shocking part is that this kid plays video games without his hands. And I mean, he does that perfectly. I'm sorry, but even with your 2 hands perfectly fine, you might find it difficult to beat this champ in video games. He uses his chin and shoulders to operate the game pads. As if that wasn't enough, Tio writes while holding a pen to his mouth. His teachers are amazed and impressed even with his academic progress. While Isaiah Bird didn't have limbs and lived with them, Deepak Paswan has 8 limbs. Before Deepak was born, his mother felt a lot of pain and complications, and when he was delivered, everyone was shocked. Instead of the regular 4 limbs that were expected, Deepak came with an extra 4. It turns out Deepak was housing a parasitic twin in his body as the extra limbs jutted out of his body through his chest and stomach. People in his village were scared of him, believing he was the curse to his parents. In 2010, he had an intense surgery at no cost, which became successful and freed him from his problems. You must have seen a mermaid once or twice on TV and in books, and they keep wondering if mermaids exist. Milagros Saran was born a mermaid. Not a real mermaid like we have heard, but her birth defect made her look like a real mermaid. The genetic condition made her legs fused, with her feet facing opposite directions, making it similar to a mermaid's tail. As a baby, you would have thought Milagros was a mermaid, if not because mermaids live in water. Fortunately, this miracle baby has had her legs separated and has lived a happy life. Milagros lived for 15 years as a happy girl before she died of a kidney problem. Remember when I said there's a kid with 2 heads? I promise I was not joking. Manar Magad was born with her head attached to her head, and her twin sister didn't have her full body but just her head and a bit of torso. She was alive there, but all she was able to do was blink her eyes and move her mouth. According to doctors, if Manar was to survive and live well, they had to remove her sister Islam. Manar's case is known as craniopagus parasiticus, and most times when a parasitic twin is detached, there's a slim chance of survival. Islam was detached and that led to her death, but not long after, Manar also died back in 2006. Enjoyed the video? Now watch this one.